Today in the shop, 2016 Polaris side by side. Let's get it on the lift and see what's wrong. So the Polaris actually fits on the lift really good. I did go ahead and throw my safety stands front and back just so everything stays solid. So let me show you what we got going on. So you can see the carrier bearing is completely shot. But the problem that we're having up here is there's a pin right there. You can see it. That the owner tried to get out. Let me see if I can rotate that. I'll have to look on the other side. All right, hopefully you can see that. I believe everybody says you should use an air chisel with like a pick end, and you can see there's lots of hits all around here. I think he said he did try that. So the driver's side, it is out just a little ways, or at least it feels like it is. So we're gonna see what we can do, see if we can keep it coming out the driver's side. Just went ahead and moved the tie rod up and out of the way just so I can get in there a little bit easier. Yeah, if you could see it from the side, I've got it out quite a ways now, at least a 1/4 inch. Woohoo, almost out. Yay. All right, there's where it used to be. Whew. All right, front shaft is out. There is the old bearing. And let me show you the rear shaft. So here is our rear shaft, but you can see where it was bouncing around, and it put some pretty deep grooves into the drive shaft. So we are thinking about just buying a little bit of time and maybe just slowly go around, tack this. I don't want to end up warping it, but we also got to get this collar off, because here's the new bearing that's going on. All right, since those grooves are pretty deep, I'm just gonna go ahead and lightly weld this back up. So I'll just do a lot of little spot welds, and then we'll just smooth it back down and see how it looks. Everything always looks better with a fresh coat of paint. But the lines are gone. It's all ground down pretty smoothly. A few tiny little pits, but nothing too major. Next, we'll make sure that this is cleaned up enough to slide that bearing on. Getting the rear shaft in and out was a little difficult. This, I think, is just slightly bent. And then you can see the skid plate. There's a little bit on that too. I did try to drop the skid plate a little bit, but this has got like rub rails on the side, so I couldn't take it all the way off. So I just kind of worked around it. I got to put the bolts back in on that. But the drive shaft now is in and up where it's supposed to be. So now I'm going to try to figure out exactly how that bearing's supposed to be up there. Something super important to do is make sure you match mark. Hopefully you can see I got some white paint. There you go. Lining those up. That way it's much easier when you get it in the machine, because this one's got a little nub in it and this one's got a missing tooth. So you got to make sure they're lined up. That puts all your drive shafts back to factory. With the drive shaft pushed all the way to the rear, I did take the cap off the bearing and to make sure there's a collar that we have to put on here. But I'm gonna wait to put that, and I'm gonna wait to put this cap back on, even though I think it's gonna be a huge pain. I think it'll be easier to do it once the front drive shaft is in. That way, if I need a little more push one way or the other, I can move stuff around a little bit. We are in. I don't know if you can see it. Our pinhole is lined up and our marks are lined up. So now it's time to put that carrier bearing in. Just remember, push this shaft onto here first and then slide it onto here. You can't do it the other way. It just doesn't work. But now we'll see if we can get the actual carrier up in there to hold everything in place. All right, here's our little collar that holds that rear drive shaft in place on that new carrier bearing. You can see it's got this bevel, and we want to put the bevel back. There it is in the front. We want to put it towards the back because this shaft has got this little angle right here, and it just rubs up against it if you do it the other way. So put it in that way. Bink. All right, everything is all up and secure. I did have to get some longer bolts. The ones that came with the kit were not long enough, but that was just a matter of going and finding them. So everything's up, everything's greased, rear skid plate's on. Now we'll put the center one on, and this thing is finished, other, I guess, than putting the wheels back on. All right, got a new roll pin for the front, so we'll get that put back in. I'd just say size one up at a hardware store. This one measured out to be 8 millimeters diameter and like 40 millimeters long. I don't remember what that was in inches, but you can just pick one of those up again at a hardware store because the kit didn't come with it. Okay, so you can see I've got the one roll pin all the way in. This is a second roll pin that will just drive inside of it. I don't know if it's needed or not. The factory ran multiples in, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it just because it's not that expensive and I don't think it'll be that hard to get it back out. But tell me what you think in the comments. Do we really need to put another one in? This is a nice spline shaft. It isn't like this thing's gonna spin on it. Okay, hopefully you can see I used a little bit shorter roll pin on the inside one. That way it's recessed back in, and hopefully that will give the next person the ability to just put the correct size punch in, drive that inner one right out, and then pop the other one. So there we go. All right, overall, it wasn't a terrible job. Just got to take a few things off to get to everything. And maybe had I started from the beginning, it wouldn't have been quite as hard. Once those pins get kind of mangled into that knuckle, it's pretty tough. So anyway, this one's done. We got lots more Jeep stuff. So check back on the channel often. Thanks for watching.